Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Noble, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my Witchcrafter deck profile. So I was actually really excited when I found out that the Witchcrafter archetype was getting reprints in Dual Overload, because this is just a really fun deck to play, and now it's budget, more budget. I think Golem Aru is like $3 or $4 now, and if you want to bling it out with the secret rares, they're like $7 a piece for this in creation. But other than that, it's really budget, way more than it was. Witchcrafters have kind of a different play style. They can be slow sometimes, but they have a ton of disruption for your opponent. So if you haven't had a chance to see them, or see them in action, it's just a lot of fun. I really recommend you picking them up. But without further ado, let's get right on into it. As always, I really hope you enjoy this video because I've had a ton of fun building this. So to start off with, we're playing two Witchcrafter Madame Vera. I think I'm saying Madame Vera. I think I'm saying that correctly. But some people play her at 1. I like playing her at 2. She's searchable, so you could definitely bump her down to 1 if you want to. That's definitely doable. But she's one of our go-to boss monsters for the deck. So during damage calculation, if your spellcaster monster battles an opponent's monster quick effect, you can reveal any number of spells with different names in your hand, and if you do, your battling monster gains 1,000 attack defense for each card revealed until the end of this turn. That's really good by itself, but she also has a great secondary effect too. That's also a quick effect. Quick effect, you can discard one spell and negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect of Witchcrafter Madame Vera once per turn. So she's just great all around. Just being able to beef up your monsters and then also being able to negate all your opponent's monster effects for the rest of the turn, like face-up ones. That's fantastic. Like I said, she is searchable, so if you want to play her at 1, that's fine. But I like her at 2. I think it's a little more optimal. Moving on for our next boss Witchcrafter monster, we're playing 2 Golem Aru. Probably the most beautiful one in my opinion. But what she does is if your opponent activates a card or effect, the artwork. Just clarifying, I mean the artwork. Okay, anyway. If your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a spellcaster monster or monsters you control, or targets it for an attack quick effect, you can target one card your opponent controls or one Witchcrafter spell in your graveyard. Special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, return the targeted card to the hand. You can only use this effect of Witchcraft Golem Aru once per turn. Also, once per turn, during your opponent's semi-phase, return this card to your hand. So she's easy to get out. She has a big body, and just basically having 2 different avenues. So basically being able to recycle our spells back to our hand and then get this boss monster on the field is really good. Or being able to compulse one of our opponents is also really good as well. So I definitely think you should play her at 2. If you want to run her at 1, that's totally fine. You could probably get away with that, but I like her as a 2 of. For the next 2, Witchcrafter boss monster, 2 Witchcrafter Hane. I like running her at 2 as well. She's really good when your opponent cannot target other spellcaster monsters you control card effects, so she has some protection. And then she has the ability of the quick effect. You can discard one spell, then target one face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. You can only use this effect of Witchcrafter Hane once per turn. So not only does she have protection, but basically being able to pop any of your, one of your opponent's cards is really good. It doesn't have to be a monster. As long as it's a face-up card, you can pop it. And that's fantastic. I really, really like that effect, so I like her running at 3 for that reason. For the next 3, we're playing 3 Witchcrafter Pator. I think I'm saying that right. If you've been watching my videos, you know by now I cannot enunciate worth a heck. I just cannot do it. So you're probably used to that by now, but you know how to say it and I don't, and that's all that matters. What she does is during the main phase quick effect, you can tribute this card, then discard one spell, special summon one Witchcrafter monster from your deck, except another copy of this card. Like I always say, being able to special summon from the deck is one of the most powerful effects in the game, and she has that, so that's really good by itself. But she also has the effect to where you can banish this card from your graveyard, draw a card, so let's draw power, then send one Witchcrafter card from your hand to the graveyard, or if you have none, banish your entire hand. So a little bit of an Allure of Darkness vibe going on, to where if you don't have a Witchcrafter card in your hand, to discard you have to banish your entire hand, but more than likely you're going to. And if you don't, you just had a really bad draw, because you should as much Witchcrafter cards as we play. So she's really good. I like her as a 3. For the next 3 is I play Witchcrafter Skimietta. I'm probably butchering the crap out of that. I think it's like schematics, so I say Skimietta, but that's probably not right. Now I've seen this played at 2, so you can bump this down to 2 if you wanted to. But what she does is during the main phase quick effect, you can tribute this card, then discard one spell, special summon Witchcrafter monster from your deck. Except another copy of this card. She has that as well. You can banish this card from your graveyard. Send one Witchcrafter card from your deck to the graveyard, except another copy of this card. You can only use each effective Witchcrafter Skimieta once per turn. So she has a Foolish Burial effect that's really good as well. So for the next two, I'm playing two Witchcrafter Genii, I believe. She's more fairly new. What she does is that during the main phase, quick effect, you tribute discard one spell, special Witchcrafter monster from your deck. I wonder if you're seeing a trend by now. I wonder if you're seeing a trend. They do that. You can banish this card and one Witchcrafter spell from your graveyard. This effect becomes that spell's effect when that card is activated. You can only use each effective Witchcrafter Genii once per turn. So, she kind of like a Dark Lord type of effect with that, to where you can banish the spell and then get that effect. So that's really cool. Personally, I think you should run her at 2, but that's really up to you. For the next two, I'm playing Witchcrafter Pottery. I have to be saying that right. Like, there's no way I have to be saying that right. Probably not. During the main phase, quick effect, you can tribute this card. Blah, 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 special Witchcrafter. Her secondary effect is if you have no cards in your hand, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Witchcrafter card in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So again, just some recycling, and that's really good as well. For the last three monsters of the main deck, we're playing just 3 Ash. Now, if you wanted to stick to the spellcaster theme, you could run 3 Effect Veiler. I've seen people do that, and that's actually not a bad idea, because this deck just has a ton of disruption. Just adding Ash just definitely helps that. But if you want to stick with the spellcasters, you can definitely play 3 Effect Veiler as well, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But that's it for the monsters. Let's move on into the spells, because we do play a heck of a lot of spells in this deck, and they're all really great. So for the first 3, we're playing Witchcrafter Creation, which I'm so glad to say is easily available now. What this card does is if you can add one Witchcrafter monster from your deck to your hand. Quite simple. During your end phase, if you control Witchcrafter monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. You can only use one effect of a Witchcrafter. You can only use one Witchcrafter effect per turn, and only once that turn. So she has really good recycling and really good searching. Definitely a 3 of, in my opinion, she's a mandatory 3. The spell is. For the next 3, we're playing 3 Witchcrafter Holiday. God, I love that artwork. Oof. Sucker for secret rares, guys. Sucker for secret rares. You can target one Witchcrafter monster in your graveyard, special summon. During your invades, if you control Witchcrafter monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. You can only use one Witchcrafter Holiday effect per turn, and only once that turn. So she's just a really good way to get our monsters back from the graveyard back onto the field. For the next 3, I'm playing 3 Witchcrafter By Street. A really interesting one. What this one does is the first time each Witchcrafter monster you control be destroyed each turn by battle of card effect, it is not destroyed. So for some protection, and that's really good because that basically means your opponent has to do it twice. You can only use one of the following effects of Witchcrafter By Street per turn, and only once that turn. If an effect monster you control would discard to activate an effect, you can send one card from your field to the graveyard instead. So options if you choose to do that. You can do that. During your end phase, if you control Witchcrafter monster while this card is in your graveyard, you place this card face up in your spell and trap card zone. So basically you get to reactivate this from your graveyard, and that's really cool as well. You could bump this one down to 2, but I think you need 3 of it, personally in my opinion, but that's up to you. For next 2, we're playing Witchcrafter Draping. This one's a quick play spell. You target spell traps your opponent controls up to the number of Witchcrafter monsters you control, and return those targeted cards to the hand. During your invades, you control Witchcrafter monster while this card's in your graveyard. You can add this card to your hand. You can only use one effect of Witchcrafter Draping per turn, and only once that turn. So just being able to compulse your opponent's spells and traps back to their hand is really good. And the fact that it's quick play is fantastic. Basically, you can play this card and then get rid of your opponent's back row for their protection, and then attack for game. And that's really cool. I'm playing 1 Witchcrafter Scroll. Witchcrafter Scroll is cool. It's a continuous spell. Once per turn, when your spellcaster monsters destroy a monster by battle, you can draw a card. So draw power is always great. Digging a little bit deeper into your deck is always great, if I can talk. You can only use one of the You can only use one of the following effects of Witchcrafter spell per turn, and only once that turn. I'm struggling. If a Witchcrafter monster you control would discard to activate an effect, you can send this card from the field to the graveyard instead. And during your end phase, if you control Witchcrafter monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can place this card face up in your spell and trap card zone. So it's basically like a free activation with being able to send this card to the graveyard, and then later on being able to activate this right back again from the graveyard. So that's really good. If you don't want to use the resources in your hand, you can use that instead as a substitute. So for the last Witchcrafter one, we're playing one Witchcrafter collaboration. You can bump this one up if you wanted to, but I just like it as a one-off right now. But I'm still experimenting a little bit. But you can target one Witchcrafter monster you control. It can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. Also, if it attacks this turn, your opponent cannot activate spells and traps until the end of the damage step. So being able to attack twice, kind of like a Bloodluster effect, and then locking out your opponent of playing their, if they have any traps or spells, being able to lock them out of that is really great. During your end phase, if you control Witchcrafter monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. You only use one effect of Witchcrafter collaboration per turn, and only once that turn. So moving away from the Witchcrafter spells, we're playing 3 Secret Village of the Spellcaster. This card is I hate this card personally. I really hate this card. I think it's super cheap because it's so powerful, but it doesn't really have an activation cost or a maintenance cost. I think it's crazy overpowered. But it's great in this deck because it locks your opponent out from playing spells, because if only you control a Spellcaster monster, your opponent cannot activate spell cards. If you control no Spellcaster monsters, you can't activate spell cards, but we're always going to have a Spellcaster monster. That's why I was saying if you want to run Effect Veiler instead of Ash, that's totally viable. But this card can really lock out your opponent, especially Cyber Dragon or something like that, because a lot of times they really rely on Cyber Emergency to just, they don't even have the option to play that card. That can really hurt your opponent. Hate this card, but it's really good. For a few one, I was playing 1-for-1. One Monster Reborn, just to be able to, bring back our monsters from the graveyard, as always. And then 3 Called by the Grave, just, to stop our opponent's hand traps, because we do search, and, we don't want to get Ash, because sometimes that can be pretty devastating. And then I only want to running one trap. I'm running one Witchcrafter Masterpiece. If you want to bump this up, you can. This one's interesting. What it does is, if you control a Witchcrafter monster, target one spell in either graveyard and add one card with the same name from your deck to your hand. During either player's turn, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card and any number of spells from your graveyard. Special summon a Witchcrafter monster from your deck whose level equals the number of spells banished to activate this effect. You can only use each effective Witchcrafter Masterpiece once per turn. So that's a good way to get your monster back on the field and be able to search as well. I just like it as one. I'm probably not going to use it more than once a duel, if I even use it once a duel. But if you want to bump this up, absolutely, by all means, go for it. So that's it for the main deck. Let's move on into the extra deck. This deck doesn't really have a specified extra deck. There's no real Witchcrafter extra deck at the moment, at least. So just running some generic ones. I'm running one Appaloosa. If you don't have Appaloosa, I understand it's a super expensive card. You could get rid of a Link 4 and run Nightmare Phoenix, because I'm actually not running Nightmare Phoenix in this one because I don't have mine right at this moment. One Burl Sword, one Avermax, one Saruja, just because I think I'm saying that right. I don't know how to say that name. Just being able to draw, more draw power, that's fine. But if you, like I said, if you want to get rid of some of these, that's totally fine as well. One Nightmare Unicorn, one Decode Talker, one Nightmare Cerberus, one Crowley, just because having the spellcaster option is really good as well. So I think Crowley is pretty good run to this one. One Underclock Taker, one Barricade Bork Blocker, just because of the field spell for the Secret Village. Running one Almirage, just because not too often, but sometimes you do want to protect your Madame Vera, and Almirage is a really good way to do that. One Link Karibo, and then for the Xyz, just one Utopia, one Tornado Dragon, and one Abyss Dweller. Like I said, I would definitely run Nightmare Phoenix. I just don't have mine at the moment. I gave it to my buddy to use. But yeah, this is it for the deck, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Witchcrafters are interesting. They have a ton of disruption. They play a ton of spells. And it's just a lot of fun to play. And like I said, it's definitely budget now. So if you haven't had a chance to pick it up, capitalize on it, go grab it if you're able to. We're quarantined. We ain't doing nothing else right now. We might as well be playing some Yu-Gi-Oh! And you know, having fun with some new decks. But that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you guys think about spellcasters. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite spellcaster deck is. I'd really love to hear your opinions. While you're here, you might as well subscribe if you haven't already done so. Don't forget to hit that like button and hit that bell so you become a part of the notification team. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video.